Okay, so today we begin the third parak in the first part of the Ramchal's Derech HaShem. So let's review. So in the second parak, we talked about the nature of the creation, the purpose of creation and the nature of creation. Okay, so there were five kind of paragraphs. Not paragraphs, but five numbered paragraphs. There were five. That the first thing we learned was that Hashem created the world for the purpose of expressing His goodness. Okay, the purpose of was to express His goodness to a creation, to somebody outside of Him. Then we said that Hashem wanted to express the best and the most perfect goodness possible, right? And then He realized that would be Him Himself, but He cannot give the goodness that He possesses. He cannot give to somebody else. He can only let that other being attach himself back to Him. And that was the purpose of creation. So creation was to allow this being to attach himself back. Then He wanted to give this being independence, to be the owner of this goodness. And so therefore he needs to create a place where he's going to work on this and acquire it and earn it. Right, so he becomes the master of this goodness, and basically we figured out that any element of perfection is what gets a person closer to God, right? Because God is perfect, so any element of perfection is going to be a stepping stone towards God. Any element of imperfection is going to be a stepping stone in the other direction, right? And so He must have created this person in this place where he has the ability to move into whichever direction he desires, right? And that's it. And then so He told us that this creation is the human species, and everybody else, all the upper creatures and the lower creatures, they're all created for the sake of this master plan, to allow the human creation to receive this reward and to earn this reward. Yeah.
Is it some napkins around?
I'm not sure.
By there.
Done yet? So that was the second chapter. Okay, now we got the third chapter. So now that we were told that this creation that's going to be the receptacle for God's goodness, and that's going to be also the one who's going to be earning this goodness, and therefore is going to be given the ability to earn this goodness, that is mankind. So now we're going to talk about what's the nature of this creation, meaning, and what's the, what are the tools that He possesses in order to acquire this reward. Okay, so let's see. So b'minha enoshi, in the human species. Kvar zacharno. So Aleph. Kvar zacharno. We already mentioned. Heyos ha'adam oiso habriya, that the Adam, the man, was that bria, that creation, hanivres, that was created, ledovek boy isborach, to attach to God, blessed be His name. Okay. So the purpose, he was created for the purpose of attaching to God, to acquire that ultimate goodness. V'hi hamuteles bein hashlemus v'hachesronos, and this being, this Adam, is placed between shlemus, which perfection, v'hachesronos, and imperfections and deficiency. Right, so he's placed between those elements. And He has the ability to acquire the perfection. However, it is needed. So the first thing we're going to need is that this has to be with his own selection, with his own choosing, and his own will. Is there a difference between Bechira and Ratzon? Is there a difference between Bechira and Ratzon? What's the difference?
You can want, but not necessarily able to choose.
If I choose, but if I choose, the first thing he said, if I choose A, I have a choice, A or B, right? So I have to be given the choice to choose, right? I have to be given the ability to choose between A and B, and I need to will, and then I have to do that through my own will.
Yeah, station. Choose between two evils. You have to choose, but you don't want to. But you have no choice. You have to choose.
Right.
So that's the idea.
So again,
So sometimes the fact that you have a choice doesn't mean that you're choosing because you want to. Sometimes you're choosing because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that maybe there are two levels over here. One level is, I'm forced to do this, so here's my choice, and the other is I understand why I want to do this, and I really want to do this, and my choice is then on a higher level. Okay, could be. Okay, because if he would be forced through his actions, in all cases to choose the shleimus, to choose perfection, right? If that would be a given in all my actions, it would be given that I choose the perfection. Then he wouldn't be called truthfully the master of that perfection, because for he is not the master of it. Because he is forced by somebody outside, by an external force, to acquire it. It's the one who is forcing him to acquire it. He is the one who's really the master of it, right? Good. And then the lofty intent would not be fulfilled. Right, so he's saying if I don't have the choice, if I'm the one who is forced to make this selection, so then again I'm no longer the master of it, and so that would not
be a robot.
That would not right. That would be right. Okay, and therefore huchrach sheyunach hadover lebechirosoi. Therefore, it must be so that the matter is left to his choosing. All right. So again, so this is the basic concept called freedom of will, right? Freedom of choice, freedom of will. It's interesting. I heard. I don't remember if I mentioned it, that not all we think that it's the most essential part of Judaism. Probably the belief of freedom of choice. In Christians, it's a big machlokas, whether they believe in freedom of choice or not. The Protestants don't believe in freedom of choice.
Protestants?
Catholics.
They look smart.
Okay, so it seems that not all Rishonim believed in freedom of choice either. Okay, and so. Yeah. So, but the Ramchal is taking it as a plain, simple understanding that freedom of choice is the prerequisite to any of this. Okay.
Any of what?
Any of this enterprise, the enterprise of allowing this being called the human species to acquire perfection, to acquire this goodness, the first prerequisite is he needs to be the one who chooses to do it.
Enterprise это неандертальцы?
No, and enterprise meaning the whole.
Пролюди?
No, the whole creation. That's what I mean by an enterprise.
Фон.
Фон.
На фоне. Мы существуем на фоне.
No, вообще, the entire creation. I just call it enterprise. I just mean the entire creation. Yeah. So he says, therefore, there has to be nitiyoso, his nitiyam, which means his leaning, right? His leaning has to be shkula, has to be equally weighted to both sides, right? The word shekel, right? The Hebrew, the Jewish coin, which is called shekel. The reason why it's called shekel is because it's the weight. Well, it's a certain weight. It's a perfect weight, without any mixtures in it, right? So shkula means equally weighted, l'shnei hatzdadim, to both sides, and not forced towards, not pushed towards any of them. So okay, so we'll see if that's really the case. Do we really have Are we really in a situation where we have equal nitiya, equal leaning to both sides? Is that really the case? Right? Meaning he's telling me that the purpose of creation is to give me a place where I will have equal pull, right? Equal lean towards perfection and the same towards imperfection. It has to be equal. Is that the case? Is that not the case?
Yeah, but that's what I said. The man has to be placed between, right in the middle. Because second later, as soon as you start tilting one way, that's
One
it.
way
You went.
you're already right.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
in the
exactly.
beginning,
So,
the man plays for right
right.
in the middle.
So this would be so we're talking about the ideal situation, the situation of Adam Arishon is going to speak before the sin. That this is how it was in Gan Eden and never since. Okay, but let's keep going. Shekul, okay, good. And again, he has to have the ability to choose. Livcher bedas, again, to choose with his knowledge. Ubechefetz, and with his will, a different word for will, chefetz. Be'eze mehem sheyirtza, in any of these that he wants. Be'eze, whichever one he desires, he needs to do that with his mind and with his will. Bedas. Okay, bedas, eitz das probably, but okay, we'll see. Now he also needs to have the ability. He also needs to have the ability to acquire them. Nothing should be preventing him from acquiring of any of these things. Alkain, therefore, nivra ha'odam beyetzer tov ubeyetzer hara. Therefore, a person was created with the Yetzer Tov. We'll get what's a Yetzer Tov. Now we'll discuss. Maybe we'll come to some surprising conclusions over here. But people, I think, in general, colloquial conversations, people get confused. What exactly is Yetzer Tov? What exactly is Yetzer Hara? Or anything and everything becomes Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. And we'll see that maybe that's not the case. Okay, meaning that there. Okay, well, let me jumping ahead a little bit, but
everything.
but there are many elements, not many, many layers to a human being. Okay, but Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov are just the things that, like we translate. These are the urges. These are the urges. I have Yetzer. These are the things, the pulls, the leans towards. I wouldn't say the leans, the pulls towards perfection and towards imperfections. Okay, Yetzer Tov. So the reason why, again, where does Yetzer Hara and
Oranges, what is it?
the reason why Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara comes into the picture of the world is because now that I'm placed between elements of perfection, I need to have something that pulls me towards each one. Otherwise, I'm just disconnected. It's the connection to these things. And the choice in my hands, to lean myself, to direct myself, to whichever side that I desire. Okay, good. So that's point one. Okay, moving on to point two. However, now if we want to really make this happen, or at least meaning he understands that this would not be achievable without the following. Gozer ha-chochma, the wisdom declared, the lofty wisdom declared, meaning God declared, sheyiyah ha'odam murkov mishnei hafachim, that a person, this human being, should be a creation of a murkov. Murkov means grafting, right? A compound.
It doesn't help.
A compound. The person should be a compound of shnei hafachim, of two opposites. Okay, he needs to be a connection of two opposites. The hainu. So what are the two opposites? 1 second. We already said two opposites. Didn't we already say two opposites?
Yeah.
What two opposites did we say?
Yetzer
Hara and Yetzer Tov. So now he's not talking about those opposites. The hainu. What he means by now? Min neshama sichliyos v'zaka. From a neshama that's sichlius, that is intellectual, v'zaka, and pure. Okay, v'guf, and a body, artsii. Artsii means like earthly, v'okor, and dirty, and I don't know how to say it, dark. Let's call it dark. Okay. So now we have two new opposites. Before we assumed, right? Before we had two opposites called Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. Now we have two different opposites called Neshama and Guf. Okay, and again, they're not the same thing. They're not.
But
They're not the
I
same.
haven't showered. Why he says I'm dirty?
What?
I have a shower at my
Right. Okr doesn't. Okr means, that's why it's difficult to translate. Meaning, so I'm translating it as dark, Meaning it's not. It's I don't know how to say it. It's dark. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so how are we gonna deal with?
Я вообще-то белый человек.
How are we gonna deal with in some Epicurus? Like in his head, he decided that God doesn't exist, everything's stupid. So his mental and his body both goes totally opposite direction. So there is no control.
So your question is, I'm understanding your question is,
I was wondering how it's gonna
what
go.
about the people that have an intellectual sin as opposed to a physical sin?
Okay.
Is that what you're saying?
Somebody who has like pure Epicurus, who doesn't believe in God.
Right.
So,
So what is he doing? He's doing it.
But he's mentally, he's also he decided that that's not where I'm going. I'm going opposite way.
Right.
So body is a body. That is all we have. But his mental opposite also goes the same direction as the body. So there is no opposite. There's just
I'm not sure I understand.
we'll see.
I'm not sure I understand. Meaning, to me, in my mind, anything that's any imperfection,
Yep.
right? Meaning, perfection would be symbolized by something that's transcendental,
Okay.
right? Something that's not limited and something that is transcendental, and something that is godlike. Imperfection will be limited and not transcendental and not unlike God,
Okay.
right? So therefore, to me, those things are synonymous.
Mhm.
So therefore, an
Immanentная.
Epicurus, so you could have two persons. One person can be, I don't know, in a bar, stuffing himself with alcohol and meat, and pursuing very physical, what we call physical things.
Immanent stuff.
at
Physical
least- but at least
stuff,
his
but the
brain-
Epicurus is really pursuing the same limited stuff.
Yes, but his mind also.
There might be
already a brain.
maybe he expanded his horizons bigger than the person who is in the bar,
Some
but
alcoholic.
ultimately there he still put an expiration date, a limitation to how far he's going to get. And he's only going to get as far as this world will allow him to get, and this world by definition is physical. So he's still pursuing things that are not transcendental. He's still pursuing things that are physical.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to say right now. Maybe we'll see maybe later more. Okay, good. So that's what we got right now. We got that there are two opposite. In order to make this again, what's the purpose? In order to accomplish what God is trying to accomplish, right? The master plan. He felt that the way to accomplish this master plan was to make this being, which is going to be a receptacle for this good, that he's going to be this unstable organism. He's going to be an unstable organism made from two opposites, from a physical component and from a spiritual component, right? And a person is both. A person is not Mr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that one day he's like this and one day he's like that. That there's a clear cut between one and the other. A person is really one thing, is a compound organism of both of these things, of a spiritual component and a physical component.
Интегральный.
Right. So, Shikol Echad Mehem, each one of these components, Yita Beteva Letzideh, by nature, again very clearly, by nature, will pull towards Tzidoi, towards its side, meaning its nature, right? By nature, the physical part of me, again, it's not a different part. We're used to clearly separate, this is black and this is white, this is black and this is white. We like to keep things very nicely organized in its proper place, but life is not like that. Life is much more analog. It's not so digital, right? So So, but each one of these components, wherever they are located, they're going to pull towards its nature. The body will pull towards the physical, and the neshama will pull towards towards the sichlius, towards the intellectual. Okay, so there you'll find that there is a war between them. In such a way, that if the neshama wins out, Tis'alehi, the neshama will go up, right? We say neshama should have an aliyah, right? Neshama will go up. Tis'alehi, the neshama will go up. Usa'ale haguf ima, and the body will also be pulled up with the neshama. And then this being called Adam, the compound Adam, hamishtalim, that will be perfected b'shleimus hameutod, with this destined shleimus. But if a person will leave, now this is very interesting words over here. The person will allow, right? By neshama, it doesn't say that a person will allow. It says there is a war, and if the neshama will will be victorious, right? The victory of the neshama will pull the body together with it. But if the person will allow that the chomer, which is the physical part of it, the chomer, the physical part of it, will be victorious. The person will just allow it, right? So again, it's much more of a passive phraseology. So that doesn't fit so well with what he said before. Before he said it's all equal, right? I have two things pulling me in both directions. Now the language changed a little bit. Now the language is saying that my physical thing automatically pulls me down. So all I need to do is just allow it the process to take its course. If I want to turn towards the spiritual side, I actually have to actively pursue that side. Okay, so hine yushpal haguf, in that case the body will fall, and the tishpal nishmasoi imoy, and the neshama will fall with it. And then this person will, as a result, this person will be bilti hagun, will be not worthy, will be deemed unworthy lashleimus, to perfection. V'nidchim imenu chas v'shalom, will be, as a result, will be cast aside, God forbid. Ulo hazeh yechoiles lehashpil chomroi lefnei sichle v'nishmasoi. But even so, it says, well, that's how it translates over here. Ulo adam hazeh, meaning even this person, meaning even the fallen person, yechoiles lehashpil chomroi lefnei sichle v'nishmasoi, before he can subjugate. Okay, he can diminish. He can subjugate. He can make the physical part to his intellectual and spiritual part. I'm not sure what he's trying to add over here, but it sounds like you would have said maybe it's a one-time thing. You make one choice and you're done. What he was saying, with each and every choice, every time you pull yourself away from this perfect balance, then you should, at that point, you should never have an ability to get back. So somehow, he doesn't explain it, but somehow the intellect still has tools to win the war. And even though he's losing a battle after battle after battle, there still remains the ability to win the war. He's not explaining it right now. Maybe we'll get back to it.
12 steps of anonymous alcoholic.
Right.
That's a good explanation.
Okay, maybe we'll see. Maybe deeper than that, but we'll see.
Just like he can't think of Bob and True. At one point he said it. Yes, it was wrong in my True, and suddenly right in the middle again.
Well,
It sounds like you're talking about power of True.
right.
So,
But again, we need to maybe have a deeper appreciation of tshuva also. But I mean, tshuva is nice. I mean, but it's very cute. You said, "Oh, Hashem, forgive me. I'm never going to do it again." All of a sudden, what does that mean?
We're talking about it's a very complicated thing. It's not just I decided. It goes to a bunch of levels, you know.
Right, but how? So all right, we'll see. Okay, so that's the second part. So again, so the first part told us you need to have free will. In order to have free will, you need to have an urge to pull you in both directions. The second part told us that they introduced us to this new idea that this being, right? This being is a two-part being. It's a hybrid of spiritual and physical. Okay, and he did tell us in the second part that the physical seems to have the status quo situation, right? I mean, let's face it, we are in a physical world, right? Even Adam Arishan was placed into a physical world, right? So by nature, what he saw or should have seen, again, maybe if you remember from Nefesh HaChaim, maybe he said a little different, but by default, people only think physical thoughts. People do not think spiritual thoughts by default, right? You have to grow up, meaning by nature, by definition. Right. Yeah. So people think physical thoughts. People see what they see, and they cannot think beyond what they see until they grow up, mature intellectually, and then they start thinking that there are other things in the background, right? Okay. Gimel. V'amnam, however, Gozer Tuvo Yizbarach Shmoy. Now, in the first, just paying attention, in the second paragraph, the Gzeira, the decree came from the Chochmah HaElyona, the lofty wisdom, meaning the designer of the project. Mm-hmm. Over here, V'amnam Gozer Tuvo Yizbarach Shmoy. Over here, the good, I don't know how to say it, but the goodness of God, right? The good part of the project, or the I don't know how to say it. Okay, the kindness of the designer, I guess. That there has to be a limit to this effort stage. To the stage of effort, there should be a limit. Because technically, if we're saying that the whole purpose of creation is for me to acquire perfection so I can attach myself to God, which is the ultimate good. So God is the infinite ultimate good, and therefore I would require an infinite amount of work to get there. And so I will never get there because I will be infinitely working on getting there, and I will never get there.
Getting where?
To perfection. Right? Because perfection is
a never-ending process.
Right. So therefore God says, we're gonna play a game. Okay? I don't want to say play a game. We're gonna give you a 70 year, 80, 90, 120 years of your life. Okay? You're gonna acquire as much perfection as you can acquire in that 120 years of your pathetic life. It will be very cute. It will be the perfection level will be level 0.0000001, whatever, like nothing. But we're gonna pretend that if you do well in that 120 years of your life, and you're going to acquire the 0.0001 perfection points that I was able to give you, will multiply that by infinity, because assuming that if you would have lived for infinity, you would have acquired all of it.
Why so small?
I'm just, there's no numbers. I'm just making up numbers. But ve'amnam gozer tuvo yizborach shmoy sheyagvul le'ishtadlus hazeh hamitztarech lo'odem lahasik shleimus. There has to be a limit to this effort stage that's needed for a person to acquire hashleimus, the perfection. Ukeshehishlim hishtadlusa, when a person perfects, not perfects. I'm sorry. When a person concludes his effort, Yasik Shleimusoi, he will then reach his perfection. V'yenuach b'hana'asoi, and then he will rest in his reward, l'neitzach nitzochim, for all eternity. Al kain, therefore, huchkaku loy shnei zmanim. Therefore, God kind of designed two periods. Echad zman ha'avoida. The one is called the time for avoida, the time for service. The echad zman kibul aschar, and the other one is to receive the reward. Okay, good. V'ulam, continuing. V'ulam midas hatoiv meruba. However, God's midah of good is greater. Sheha avoida yesh zman mechukok. That the time of service has a limited time. As much as God felt that it was needed for this purpose, The kibul aschar, but the time to receive the reward, ein loy tachlis, does not have any end. Actually, it's eternal that a person gets misanik, gets oina, gets enjoyment. And he continues in his perfection, asher kono loy, which he was able to acquire. Right? That's why we have a concept that tzaddikim, even in Olam Haba, they don't have any rest. There's such a line, meaning that since they were during their life, they were constantly acquiring perfection. Now, the time for effort ended. So in Olam Haba, in other words, where they get to that point where they're attached to God, they're also continuously growing higher and higher in their appreciation of godliness, right? So they just continue that pattern for all eternity without the need to earn it, meaning you earn it for the first hour and then you continue getting it for the rest of eternity.
By inertia.
I'm not sure, possibly. Okay.
I have a problem with translation. The problem with translation.
Which one?
My Hebrew is extremely limited. That's why. Number 3. The start says it says limited. Decrease there be limited man's effort required to obtain perfection.
Right.
And then, so now we're talking about effort, and then we switch to time periods. So effort, I understand, is like effort. Time period is like how long you have to do the effort. It's like two separate things.
I understood. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. So I think he means that. That's what I mean. I understood from the beginning. I'm not sure 100% now that you pointed out, but I'm still leaning towards that. When he's talking about the effort, he's talking about the whole idea of effort, right? Yeah. So the idea is that there has to be, right? The idea was that let's create effort for a person. Let's create the opportunity for a person to earn this reward, right? Mm-hmm. The way to earn the reward is to make an effort. Now he's saying, how long is this effort? I shouldn't say how long, but how much are we going to require of this effort? How much are we going to require of this effort? And the answer is, let's make a limited amount of effort. Let's make a certain portion of effort. Okay, so therefore, we have to say, okay, so how do we get a certain portion of effort? We're going to say, live for a certain amount of time. This is your portion of effort that you need to submit in order to achieve entry into the world to come. So I'm not sure that, even though in English it seems like, meaning there's a limit to man's actual effort, which, it could be. I'm not sure, but I'm taking it to reading it as simple, meaning that when he means effort over there, he means the idea that there has to exist such a thing as effort. Yep. That's what I'm understanding it. Okay. So Dalet. Ve'ulam, however, or still, kefi hischalef zmanoi, that in accordance to the change of time, meaning as he moves from one place to another place, kach roish hischalef matzovoi ushar mikrav. So his nature and other things surrounding him have to change as well. Does that make sense? Meaning, what he's trying to say now is that in the world of effort, you need a different type of existence than in the world of reward. Okay, that's what he's trying to say. As the change of time, so too his state and other experiences have to change as well. He calls man hahishtadlus, because the entire time of the stage of effort, he needs to be in one type of nature. Because there has to exist all of the elements and aspects that are needed to him in order to accomplish his effort. Perush, meaning, because there has to exist in him the war that we have mentioned before, between v'hachomer, between the seichel and the chomer. Okay? V'lo yiyaloi dover, and there cannot be anything sheyi'akev es hachomer that will prevent the chomer, the physical part of him, malishloit, to dominate v'lasois es shaloi, and to do what is his. Kifi hashir haroi loi, in whatever measure is appropriate for him. V'loi dover sheyakav es haseichel, and there can also not exist anything that will prevent the seichel melishloit from dominating v'lasois es shaloi, and to do what is his. Kifi hashir haroi loi, to the measure that's appropriate for the seichel. V'chein, and similarly, lo yadover sheyigroim lachomer lehischazik yosim naroi. There should not be anything that will contribute to the physical to get stronger more than necessary. V'gam lo yigrom halaseichel lehischazik yosim naroi, and there should not be anything that will cause the seichel to be strengthened more than necessary. Ki afal pi, well, yeah, we'll get back. Ki afal pi shemitzad echod. Even though from one perspective that would seem like a good idea, let's give him inspiration, so to speak, to make his seichel stronger, right? It would seem like a good idea. According to the true intent, and the thing that is desired from man, which is kniyas hashleimus, which is the acquisition, meaning independent acquisition, through his effort. Einenu tov, that would not be good for this world. Okay, so I just want to read this up. Ubizman kibul schar, however, at the time of the reward, right, in the world of the reward, hinei roi lo sheyeh b'matzav hafkim izeh. It's appropriate that he should be in a state that is absolute opposite from this one. Okay, what's the absolute opposite? Because any kind of dominion that the physical nature would have at that point, because that would actually darken, it will be a preventative to the neshama, that it will prevent it from connecting with God. Right? So any physicality or any dominion that physicality would have in the world to come would be chatzitza, we would say, right? It will be an obstruction to connecting with God. Valkein, therefore, hinei ra'ui, it's appropriate, that at that point the dominion should lie only with the neshama. V'achomer,
10 people.
No, dominion, not dominion. Dominion, like control.
Control.
Right. V'achomer, and the physical part, should automatically be pulled after it, legamri, completely, in such a way that it has no ability to prevent it in any way. Okay, so this goes back. I'm not going to discuss it too much, but this goes back to Machlokas, the Rambam and the Ramchal. Let's put it this way. Okay, whether in the world to come, the guf or the body has any remnant, right? So the Rambam believes that the body does not belong in the world to come. That the world to come is what we would call Olam HaNeshamis. He also has Olam HaNeshamis, a world of souls.
So we read the book of Luzzatto. Why are you talking about Rambam?
So the Rambam, because we need to know what the alternative views are. So the Rambam believes, because he's coming to address the Rambam's view. He's not in a vacuum. He's coming to address what the Rambam believed also. So the Rambam believed that world to come the body cannot exist. Right?
It's not physical.
No body, whatever.
It's not physical.
What is not physical?
No, the world to come, it's not physical.
It's not physical, right? So the body cannot exist in that world, right? Because of what he says, then the body would be an obstruction to what you call it. Somehow the Ramchal says that the body does exist in the next world. It's just completely absorbed and completely controlled by the soul. clearly it's a different type of a body. It's not the body. Again, I'm not sure how to figure this out. He's going to dwell on this a little more. He's going to provide us more details. So this is just the first time we're getting it, but that's the basic idea over here.
Maybe it's not a Hamor anymore.
Well, I'm not sure. How can it not be? How can it not be?
To help.
Anything that's anything that's
Today it's Hamor, it's what's obstacle. Today body is obstacle. No, maybe next world it would be a help.
how?
No, I don't know how.
Okay, exactly. So I don't know how.
I belong to this world.
Right. So by in my view, I mean the Rambam makes a lot of sense. The Rambam makes a lot of sense. How could you have, like you said, the next world is not physical, so how could there be a physical body?
That's a
And if it's not a physical body, then it's no longer a body. So again, it might be just semantics, or is there real machlokas here? Maybe they're all agreeing, they're just defining things in different terms, or is there something else going on? Okay, so we'll see that further on. But so let's go back. But right, so but the main thing that he told us in this very long paragraph is that the nature of this creation, this Adam, is very different in this world and in the next world. Right?
Common world.
The nature of a person in this world has to be. Now he had the repetition over here. Let's address this repetition.
After 120.
No, not yet. I mean, he didn't define yet if it's when it is, but he had this repetition. What was the repetition? The repetition was that there cannot be anything that prevents the physical part to, well, right, it's not really it's not really a repetition. What he said is there cannot be anything that prevents the physical from getting too strong, and there cannot be anything that causes the physical to get too strong. There cannot be anything that prevents the spiritual from getting strong, and there cannot be anything that causes the spiritual to get strong. Right? So it's really just two sides of the same coin. Right? You follow what I'm saying? Meaning,
right. There's got to be balance.
Right, meaning so the balance has to be on both
sides.
On both, so it's a double balance on both sides. Meaning, the physical has to be just at that 50% level. It can't be too high or too low, and the spiritual has to be just at that 50% level. That it can't be too high or too low. Right. Okay.
Equal.
Right. Okay. Should we see a little more? Yeah, let's see a little more. Okay, va'amna malkein. So therefore, nivru shnei olamis. There were created two worlds. Olam hazeh va'olam haba. This world, va'olam haba, which means world that's going to come in the future. Olam haba. Olam hazeh, this world, is hamokim va'achukim hativim shelo. It's referring to this place and all the physical laws, the laws of nature that it has. Heim masheroy le'odem kol zman hishtadlus. They are the ones that were just appropriate for the time of effort. V'ha'olam haba, and the world to come is going to be hamokim, is going to be a place. Va'achukim shelo, and is going to have its own set of laws. Heim masheroy loy bezman kibul aschar. That it will be appropriate for the time to receive the reward. Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So I'm just jumping ahead just to answer your question. He's gonna have a different world. There's gonna be an in-between world between Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. There's an in-between world called Olam Hanashamis, the world of souls. Okay, so this that you're talking about after 120, that's the soul world. That's a temporary. That's a I don't know how to say it, but that's a refugee camp. That's a temporary solution. It's not how it's how it's
transit.
The transit. Right, it's not how it's supposed to be. That's not Olam Haba. The other thing is also just recently, this whole after 120 business, I don't, I don't know where it comes from. I mean, people do this until 120. No,
From Mabul.
there is no source.
No, from Mabul.
Yeah, so by Mabul it says that God says that I will give humanity another 120 years.
Yeah,
Nowhere does it say that each individual person will only live 120 years.
but it's not bad. 120.
Okay, but you could live for 1,000 years.
Okay, it's not a limit, but it's not bad.
So I'm just saying, there's no reason to say, you should live till,
After certain time, people are tired.
Not all people. Okay.
No,
right? Okay.
most-
Anyways, I'm just saying,
most of
this is
people
just a side point.
After 90, they tired.
Will-
They tired already.
But that will change.
Oh, okay.
In 50 years, after 90, you'll feel like life has just begun. Life is just starting out. Okay. All right, let's keep going. So this is hey. And what is necessary further to know, that this human species, ein in yonai harishon, that its original aspect is not the same. It's not the same as we see and distinguish right now. Because there was a great change in him. That's the idea of the sin of the first man. Through which a person was transformed in the world from what it was before. However, the details of this transformation, and its consequences, rabim, are very many. And we will discuss them further on. Just right now, we're going to say that when we are shadibur b'minha enoishi, when we're speaking about the humankind, the human species, v'havachona b'nisuyov, and we discuss his environment, kfulim, we have to keep a double kind of a dual picture in mind. Because we will speak about him and his environment in his nature before the sin, and we'll speak about him and his environment in his nature after sin, as it will be explained later. Okay, so all he's telling us right now, that this ideal of man that I've been speaking about till now is really, I was referring to Adam Arishon before the sin. Okay, and we stop. There we go. Let's stop. Let's just summarize what we learned today so far, and we'll continue next time.
Yeah, and translate some of.
So in summary, what we did 5 paragraphs. Okay, the first paragraph said there has to be this being, and this being needs to have a freedom of choice, and the way to create this freedom of choice is through Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. Then he said, in order to make this happen, this plan happen, God decreed. Right? He didn't say God said, God made. He said God decreed. So that implies a certain. What he's implying by that is, I'm not going to explain to you the reasoning behind this. You will just have to take it as is, right? But God decreed that in order to accomplish this purpose that he wants to accomplish, you need a physical and a spiritual part to a human being, and they will be in constant battle. There's a constant battle going on within the human being, the physical and the spiritual.
Physical want to sleep.
Each one is pulling in its own direction.
And
Each one is
spiritual want to.
right. Each one is pulling in its own direction. And then we saw that the physical has a little more of a status quo situation, where it's kind of more just on its own, and then the spiritual has to really work to get past that. But whichever one wins, that's the one that's going to either pull up the other one or drag the other one down. Okay, so it's like Siamese twins situation. Who's going to be the stronger? That's where it goes. Right, and then he said that the time of effort is limited, meaning it's just a training camp. You accomplish your job during the training camp. The rest of the time you continue. And then he told us that the reward is infinite. And then he told us that each world has a different nature, that this world has a nature that's appropriate for its purpose, and that world will have a nature that's appropriate for that purpose. And then finally he told us that all that I've been speaking until now is talking about the perfect world, even the ideal physical world, which was prior to the first sin. And after the first sin, everything completely changed. The nature of man changed, and the environment in the world changed as a result as well. And now he's going to talk about that, and we're going to discuss it later.